To Diep, hello, everyone. James's world collapsed the moment he discovered the truth: his own father had taken the baby away. The pain cut deeper than any wound, leaving him torn between anger, sorrow, and fear. Should he confess it to Diep and risk breaking her heart, or bury the truth and carry the torment alone? In that silence, James stood at the edge of despair, realizing that one choice could change their love forever. James had always believed that the shadows of his past were behind him, that the love he found with Diep would be enough to heal the scars he carried. But everything he thought he knew shattered the moment he discovered the truth. It came not through whispers or rumors, but in a cold confession that fell from his father's lips like a blade cutting through his heart. His father had taken the baby away. For a moment, James could not breathe. His chest tightened as though the world had collapsed around him. He tried to steady himself, gripping the edge of the desk in his father's office, but the weight of the words pressed him down until he felt smaller than he had ever been. His mind raced back to every quiet dream he had held of a family, of a future with Diep, of protecting what little innocence they had left. Now all of it seemed like fragile glass, broken without warning. The betrayal burned deep. His father, the man who was supposed to be his pillar, had stolen the one piece of hope that mattered most. James wanted to scream, to demand an explanation, but his voice trembled with rage and despair. "Why?" he whispered, his throat raw. "Why would you do this?" His father did not flinch. The old man's face was stern, carved with the lines of authority and pride. "Because you do not understand what's at stake. That child would tie you down, destroy the future you are destined to build. I did what was necessary." Necessary. The word echoed in James's ears like poison. How could tearing a child from its mother ever be necessary? How could betraying Diep's trust ever be justified? His hands shook as he stared at his father, torn between anger and helplessness. James's heart ached, not only for the child lost to him, but for the moment he would have to face Diep. He imagined her smile, her gentle voice calling his name, her trust shining in her eyes, and it pierced him like 1,000 needles. Should he tell her? Should he crush her heart with the same truth that had broken his? For the first time in his life, James felt powerless. And yet, deep inside, a storm was rising, a storm that would not let him stay silent for long. The days that followed were a torment James could hardly endure. Every morning he woke beside Diep. Every evening he heard her soft laughter, and with each passing moment the truth weighed heavier on his chest. He wanted to reach for her hand, to whisper the secret that consumed him, but the words would not come. His silence became a prison, and his love for her a blade cutting both ways, protecting her from pain while wounding himself with guilt. Diep was quick to notice the change in him. She always had a way of sensing his storms, even when he tried to hide them behind a carefully measured smile. "James," she asked one evening, her eyes searching his face, "why do you look at me like you're afraid of losing something?" He forced a smile, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. "I'm just tired, Diep. Work has been heavy." She studied him for a long moment, her gaze tender but sharp. James feared she could see right through him, through the lies and shadows he had woven to shield her. Yet she said nothing more, only leaned her head on his shoulder, trusting him as she always did, and that trust burned him deeper than any wound. When James was alone, he confronted his father again. The old man remained unyielding, his voice steady, almost cruel in its calmness. "You will thank me one day," his father said. "The path I carved for you is far greater than a life shackled by that child. You are meant for power, James. Do not let a woman's tears blind you." James's jaw tightened until it ached. He wanted to shout that Diep's tears mattered more than all the power in the world, that no throne, no empire could replace the child taken from them. But his words died in his throat, drowned by the echo of his father's authority that had ruled his life for so long. At night, James lay awake beside Diep, watching her sleep peacefully, unaware of the storm raging in his heart. Her hand rested lightly on his chest, as if she trusted him to carry both her dreams and her fears. He closed his eyes, torn between love and duty. between the truth that could shatter her and the silence that was slowly destroying him. And in the quiet darkness, James wondered, how long could he keep this secret before it consumed them both? One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon and painted the sky with shades of fire and sorrow, Diep turned to James with eyes that no longer carried only love, they carried questions. Heavy and unspoken, she had watched him drift farther away each day, his smile brittle, his embrace colder, his gaze shadowed by something he would not share. "James," she whispered, her voice trembling though she tried to steady it. "What is it you're hiding from me?" The words pierced him, and for a moment he forgot how to breathe. He wanted to lie again, to tell her that it was work, that the weight of his company's struggles and his family's expectations were dragging him down. But her eyes held him captive. They were not angry, not yet. They were wounded, desperate, begging for the truth he was too afraid to give. "I can't lose you," he murmured instead, his voice rough, almost breaking. "You won't," Diep said softly, taking his hand. "Unless you push me away with your silence." Her words sliced through him, sharper than any blade. He turned his face away, unable to bear the trust shining in her eyes, the very trust he was betraying. His father's command still rang in his ears, saying nothing. Protect the future, protect the name. But what future could be built on lies? That night, when she slept, James stood by the window, his reflection blurred against the glass. His hands trembled as he pressed them against the cold pane. He thought of the baby gone, taken, hidden by the very man who had raised him. He thought of Diep's gentle smile, how it would collapse into grief once she knew the truth. The storm inside him raged louder than ever. His heart screamed to confess, to fall to his knees before her and beg forgiveness. But fear chained his tongue, the fear of breaking her spirit, the fear of watching the light in her eyes turn to ash. When Diep stirred in her sleep and whispered his name, James turned, his chest aching. He moved to her side, brushing her hair back tenderly, and pressed a kiss to her forehead. She sighed, trusting, innocent of the secret that loomed between them. In that fragile silence, James made a choice he did not know if he could keep. He would hold the truth inside, bear the burden alone, until he found the strength to face both his father and the storm of Diep's heart. But deep down, he knew the longer he hid it, the deeper the wound would cut. Days blurred into nights, yet the distance between James and Diep only grew wider. She felt it in the way his hand lingered less when he touched her, in the way his eyes darted away whenever she tried to hold his gaze. He was still there, yet he wasn't. Something inside him was slipping farther and farther away. One rainy evening, unable to bear the silence any longer, Diep confronted him. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were steady. "James, I can feel it. You're hiding something from me. Do you not trust me anymore?" The words crushed him. Trust, how could he explain that it wasn't her he doubted, but himself? His chest tightened as he searched for an answer that wouldn't tear her apart. His lips parted, then closed again. For a heartbeat, he wished he could be a man who lied easily. But he wasn't. "Diep," he whispered, his voice hoarse, "there are things I want to tell you, but I can't. Not yet." Her face fell, her hands slipping away from his. The air between them thickened with unspoken pain. She turned from him, hiding the glimmer of tears in her eyes. "Do you know what hurts the most? It's not the secret. It's that you think I'm too weak to carry it with you." Those words struck him harder than any blow his father had ever delivered. He reached for her, but she stepped back, her fragile composure breaking. In that moment, James felt himself drowning not in anger, but in the unbearable weight of love and guilt. That night, after she retreated to their room, James sat alone in the darkened living room. The storm outside battered the windows, but it was nothing compared to the storm in his chest. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, his hands shaking so badly half of it spilled. "Tell her," his heart urged, "tell her before the secret destroys everything you're trying to protect." But then his father's voice echoed in his head, cold and commanding. "If you tell her, she will break, and if she breaks, so will you." James slammed the glass down, shattering it against the table. His breath came ragged, his knuckles bleeding from the shards. He pressed his forehead into his palms, torn into directions between the duty instilled in him by his father and the love that anchored him to Diep. When he finally walked into their bedroom, Diep was lying awake, her back to him. She didn't speak, and he didn't dare disturb the silence. Instead, he lay beside her, staring at the ceiling, knowing that each second of silence built another wall between them. James closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, he prayed not for strength, not for forgiveness, but for the courage to choose love over fear. The silence could not last forever. James knew it. He felt it every time Diep's eyes lingered on him, filled with a quiet ache she tried to hide. He had built a wall of secrets between them, and now it was crumbling. One morning, as the first light of dawn spilled through the curtains, James sat on the edge of the bed, watching Diep stir from sleep. Her face was soft, peaceful, yet he knew that peace would shatter with the truth he carried. His chest tightened, but this time he could not silence the storm inside him. "Diep," he whispered, his voice breaking, "there's something I need to tell you." She opened her eyes slowly, her heart already bracing for the words she had long suspected. She sat up, drawing the blanket around her shoulders. "Then tell me, James. Don't make me live in shadows any longer." The weight of years pressed down on him as he forced the words out. "My father, he took the baby. He took our child away." Diep froze. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to stop. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Then the color drained from her face, and the pain in her eyes struck James like a dagger. "What did you say?" Tears burned his eyes as he reached for her hand, but she pulled back, trembling. "He said it was necessary," James continued, his voice breaking, "that the child would destroy my future, that it would bind me to a life he didn't want for me. I should have told you sooner, Diep. I should never have let you believe I was whole when I was breaking inside." Diep's tears spilled freely now, her hands shaking as she covered her mouth. Her heart shattered not only at the loss of their child, but at the thought of James carrying this burden alone. She wanted to scream, to collapse, but when she looked at him, she saw the torment that had carved itself into his soul. "You should have told me," she whispered through her sobs. "I had the right to know. We could have faced it together." James's voice cracked as he fell to his knees before her. "I was afraid of breaking you, afraid of losing you. But I see now, I was wrong. I've already hurt you by keeping the truth." For a long, trembling silence, Diep said nothing. Then slowly, her hand reached for his, fragile but steady. "We have lost enough, James. No more lies, no more walls. If we are to survive this, we must face it together." His heart broke and mended all at once as her fingers intertwined with his. He pulled her into his arms, holding her as though she were the only anchor keeping him alive. Tears streamed down both their faces, but within that sorrow, there was also strength born of truth, love, and pain shared at last. The road ahead would be brutal. They would have to search, to fight, to confront the shadow of his father and the secrets he had buried. But for the first time, James no longer felt alone. Diep was with him, and together they would not stop until they found their child. The story of James and Diep reminds us that silence can be more destructive than the truth itself. James's decision to hide what he had learned came from love and fear. He wanted to protect Diep from pain, but his silence only deepened the distance between them. Love cannot survive in shadows. It needs honesty, even when the truth is heartbreaking. The moment James finally chose to speak, painful as it was, became the turning point that allowed both of them to begin healing. It shows that true strength in a relationship is not about protecting the other person from suffering, but about carrying the burden together. The lesson is clear. Honesty is not the enemy of love. Fear and silence are. Only when we dare to face the truth side by side can we find the courage to overcome life's deepest wounds.